is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah! Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, September 1st, 2021, Season 17, Episode number 15. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Got Dave and Nick with me, and we got a special guest with us. We're going to get to him in just a second. Just know during the show today, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to get to the 53-man roster, see if there were any notable cuts that these guys need to point out. We might even talk a little bit about one Cam Newton, who is sitting out there as a free agent right now. We'll get to that a little later in the show. And, of course, we're going to start getting you guys ready for Cowboys versus Buccaneers. That happens next Thursday night. It opens the NFL season. And that is why our special guest is here. Once again this season, we're very, very proud and excited to have Bucky Brooks of NFL Network joining us twice a week, every week, to walk us through his thoughts on the opposing matchup and give us his scouting expertise. What's going on, Bucky?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing?
We're doing well, and we're going to start this thing. Obviously, the Cowboys have they opened the season against the defending Super Bowl champs, and what most people, I'm not going to say most, what a large number of people believe may be one of the greatest quarterbacks or the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL, and Tom Brady. Check this out. I was looking at some of his numbers. Tom Brady last year was third in passing yards. He was second in attempts. He was tied for second in touchdowns. He was third in 20-plus yard passes. He was fourth in 40-plus yard passes. Is there anything that you saw in his game that would suggest he was declining even a bit that maybe in some alternate universe the Cowboys could exploit?
Well, no. I mean, I think anytime you're 44, 45 years old, you're having to deal with different issues because you're older, you need more rest and recovery to be able to play. But he's playing at a high level, and we just don't see players at this age play at a high level. When I think about the Buccaneers' offense and how they like to push the ball down the field under Bruce Arians, look, it's a tough matchup because it's not just him. It's the pieces around him. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. You then have Rob Gronkowski and O.J. Howard in the middle. They've done a really good job of surrounding him with the right kind of playmakers to allow him to play at a high level at his advanced age.
Yeah, Tom Brady's awesome.
What have you, hey Bucky? What have you seen from the Cowboys' defense, though? Like from their defensive tackle, defensive end rotation, from what Dan Quinn is trying to do, that's going to maybe get after him at all?
Well, the one thing is we really didn't get a chance to see what Dan Quinn wants to do because he was on the sideline due to COVID stuff. But based on what I got a chance to see in training camp, they'll have some unique packages where they can kind of throw some different things at Tom Brady to try and get him off his game. I think it will be interesting to see what does it look like when we finally get a chance to see Michael Parsons, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch on the field at the same time. How many of these sub-package sets and formations will they use where they have guys standing up and moving around and trying to disrupt the rhythm of the game? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say this. Michael Parsons might end up being the linchpin of the Dallas Cowboys defense based on his versatility. How does Dan Quinn utilize his vast talents and his unique skill set to throw off what Tom Brady and the Buccaneers want to do?
Okay, Buck. Tom Brady's great. He's awesome. He doesn't seem to be showing any sign of decline, but I can't help but think about how heavily the Buccaneers leaned on their running game during their run through the playoffs last year. And playoff Lenny, was that an aberration? Because I don't remember their rushing attack being really all that impressive through most of the season. Did they just get clicking at the right time? I know their offensive line is fantastic. Just what's your opinion of that and where they go from here?
Well, I mean, I think if you follow Tom Brady, you look at how they play, how he has always played in New England, they basically morphed into the New England Patriots at the end of the year. When you watch the Patriots play throughout the year, you see them start out, Tom Brady was slinging it all over the yard, but then come November, December, they kind of undergo a metamorphosis and become a power football team. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers basically followed that blueprint, and down the stretch, more traditional, old school, heavy sets, running the football, allowing Tom Brady to throw off play action, which is why he was able to take those shots. And then if they needed to, they could spread it out. I believe Tampa will kind of pick up where they left off. They'll try and run it. They'll try and grind it because it sets up play action shots for Tom Brady. But then at the end, if you're stopping that, they'll open it up and they'll let Tom Brady do what he always does.
I'm going to ride off that question a little bit, Bucky, and I know obviously you know of Gio Bernard. He was a pickup for them as a free agent. How much do you anticipate that he will factor in what they want to do from a passing standpoint, because he's a guy that has averaged 43 receptions per season with Cincinnati over the 8 years that he's been in the league, had 47 receptions last year. So a pretty productive guy coming out of the backfield. That's more than the type of production that they were getting out of the two backs they had last year. How do you think he factors in and adds that extra dimension to that Tampa Bay offense?
It's funny because the Tampa Bay offense is really the old New England Patriots offense, except Bruce Arians has signed off on it. So Gio Bernard will play the James White, Shane Vereen, Rex Burkhead role in this offense, meaning you'll see him screens, slip out option routes. They'll go empty and put him on the backside and let him work one-on-one against linebackers. And then occasionally he may touch it on a draw or delay or misdirection run. But he gives them that true pass-catching back out of the backfield, something they didn't have a year ago.
When you were at training camp, did you see Trayvon Diggs making plays, or did you see him getting beat by CeeDee Lamb because he covered him a lot? And if so, do you feel like he's the guy that has to match up with Evans, or you just keep him on his side because there's going to be a good player over there?
Yeah, no, I don't think you can match up and travel against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because if you travel him, there's still two other guys that can make plays. And Chris Godwin is terrific on the backside. He's been a Pro Bowl player. But I'm going to be honest with you, the guy who has the toughest matchup is the nickel back. Whoever has to check Antonio Brown is in for a long day, because the Antonio Brown that I'm hearing when I talk to people down there, they're talking about, oh, this is the old AB, the AB that used to get loose and used to dominate the league. The quickness is back. He had an off-season surgery to kind of clean up some issues he was having with his lower body, his legs. If that AB shows up, good night trying to figure out how you're going to cover the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in space, because each of their wide receivers can win their individual matchup.
Cowboys got their own AB they'll throw on him.
Yay. I just asked you about the offensive line, Buck, but you know, if I'm looking for a weak point, it's certainly not the quarterback. We already talked about the running backs. It's certainly none of their pass-catching options. Donovan Smith and Tristan Wirfs are obviously great, but do they have a weak point on their offensive line? And is there a guy on the Cowboys front that you think can exploit it? Because I don't think I love the matchups at offensive tackle.
No, I mean, I think the same blueprint and recipe to deal with Tom Brady exists. You have to pressure Tom Brady up the middle. It has to come up the gut, because Tom Brady is immobile. And so when you bring pressure up the gut, what it does is it forces him to get off his spot. It makes him uncomfortable, and he tends to get rid of the ball sooner than he wants to because he doesn't want to get hit. So it's not necessarily an individual matchup. It's more Dan Quinn bringing pressure through the A-gaps, finding a way to create overloads and one-on-one matchups where he can attack Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa and see if those guys are up to the task. You have to bring the pressure up the middle where Tom Brady can see it and also feel it to disrupt his rhythm as a passer.
All right, one more question for you here, Bucky. You were out there at training camp. You got a chance to watch the Cowboys. Based upon all you've seen that they've done in the offseason and the development of the players that were here last year that are still here, outside of Parsons, because you already mentioned him, what area, player, specific thing that they're doing gives you any reason to believe that this defense will be better than they were last year?
Number one thing is they're connected. Dan Quinn is holding those guys to a standard, and you can tell when you watch them practice that certain things have been communicated in meetings, and they continue to be communicated on the practice field. I see more effort. I see better execution because the defense appears to be simpler, and I see guys playing fast. Also, because it's really a mix of zone and man, I saw a ton of Cowboys getting their hands on the ball. For a very young secondary, it's really important that you're very clear in your communication. I think Dan Quinn has clearly communicated the expectations. He's pared down the scheme to allow those guys to play fast. And with the assistance of Joe Witt Jr., I think everyone is a little more detailed, and that should produce better results.
All right, Buck, we appreciate you, man. We'll be back with you on Friday so that we can talk a little bit about the Cowboys offense versus the Bucs defense and get your predictions of what you think is going to happen opening night, next Thursday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to take an early break. When we come back, we're going to get into the 53-man roster and talk to you guys about what we saw, what we think about the cuts that were made, and what we think might happen today as a result of some of those moves. We'll be right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Back to the break.
The NFL Fan of the Year contest presented by Captain Morgan is back. We're relaunching the search for one extraordinary Cowboy fan who is a positive influence and inspires others through their love of the game. Nominate yourself or others for a chance to win a trip to Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. Nominate today at DallasCowboys.com/fan of the year.
Welcome back. Second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We just finished our segment with Bucky Brooks. We're going to get back to a little more Cowboys-Buccaneers talk a little later in the show. But now I want to talk about the cuts. Yesterday was cut day in the NFL. Not a popular day. It's a tough day for a lot of players. It for a lot of players it signifies the end of their career. And so it's not a positive day, but something that teams have to do, obviously, to get down to that 53-man roster. My first question for you guys was there anything that was notable or even surprising as you saw the names that were on the list of cuts?
Surprising, no. Notable, yes, just in the sense that it's the most disjointed and unfinalized roster I've ever seen them put together, just in the sense of everything that is still to happen, which is probably a solid 15% of the roster. There's 6 injury guys that they've got to find something to do with, 5 COVID guys that have to come off at some point, and a handful of other things they got to do. So, I mean, it's really just the jumping off point.
Yeah, the league has changed to the point where it's just a 2-day thing now. I mean, it's really more than that. It's 3 or 4 days because of what's happened with the COVID list. I mean, I think the Cowboys, I'm not saying they're using the list. I'm just saying because of the way it stands right now, they'll probably go up until Wednesday or Thursday before we really get an idea of what this roster is going to look like. There are guys not on the roster that are going to go in your first 2 rounds of your NFL fantasy draft. I mean, that's how good that they are. They're not even on the roster right now. And then there's guys that are on the roster that will probably be on the practice squad. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of a tricky thing to figure it out. But like surprise, yeah, I mean, you'll see a deep snapper on the team. They're going to snap the ball, this year. And, Matt Farniok, Kamara, can't imagine them being on the 53 all year. But they are as of right now, and maybe they are. I don't know.
They might be, but it's there's a lot of stuff that's gonna. So I mean, just to break it down a little more clearly, Sean McCune's gonna go to injured reserve. Josh Ball's gonna go to injured reserve. Francis Bernard is gonna go to injured reserve. Neville Gallimore. I think there's 6 in total. Malik Turner and Kelvin Joseph probably as well. So that's 6 guys that are gonna come off. And there's about 5 COVID guys, so that makes sense. But
they're going to come on.
About four will come on probably this week, including
Noah Brown just went on. That was that they just kind of snuck that in there on roster day. So Noah will probably be gone longer than everybody else. Everybody else should be back by the end of the week.
Here's the surprise that I saw on the list because there's it used to just be here are the cuts and that's it. Yeah. Now there's 26 lists, different lists that you go on. The one that kind of surprised me was just. Chauncey Golston passed his physical and he's on the team.
Just like that. He's here. He's back.
Yeah, so that's good.
I looked into this. I thought maybe they could take him off PUP and put him right on IR. Apparently they can't do that.
Yeah.
So he's there. They thought they can bring. They thought he'd be ready faster than the 6 weeks he would be gone if they put him on PUP. But I'm just going to go ahead and guess we can write him onto the game day inactive.
At least for a little while. Yeah,
he's inactive.
Yeah, guaranteed for like a month.
Yeah.
But he's on the team. I'm curious. I think there's 7 DNs on the roster right now, and so I got my eye on Bradley Anai. I got my eye on Azur Kamara.
Yeah.
Which it's a really cool story for him that he made the initial 53, but I won't be surprised if that's not the case by the end of the week. Just a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I was telling Nick, you were mentioning that you were a little surprised about Kamara as well, but my thought was, he has his body to me seems a little different than a typical defensive end. He looks a little leaner. You could maybe see him running down on special teams. Maybe that's a role for him there. And maybe they needed that with some of the guys that maybe they won't have that they thought they were going to have running down. So who knows how they're going to use him and how they evaluate his special teams play and how that may have contributed to him being on the roster right now as opposed to being off the roster, right?
Yeah.
That being said, what guys I guess that are not on the roster right now are you expecting will be back come tomorrow or whenever they make those final moves?
For practice squad. Oh, like the release guy, like a Darian Thompson.
Yeah, like a Darian Thompson, those kind of guys.
I could see Thompson. I could see Hamilton, maybe.
Yeah, Justin Hamilton.
Who else? McQuaid. I mean,
Jake McQuaid
is the first one.
He's probably
they need a long snapper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I just wonder how that is for a veteran guy. I mean, to just be released. It probably doesn't sit well. Nobody wants that, even if they're coming back, even if it's a technicality.
It just depends on how it's approached.
Yeah.
Like if there's a sit down and it's like, okay, man, we're gonna cut you, but this is just procedural. We'll be back at the end of the week.
Yeah,
then,
I guess so.
I think it's probably like, all right, I'm fine.
It's
fine
not like
here.
you have options,
right? I'm fine here. I'm good. But yeah, if you're the sensitive type, it might not feel good.
I think for a long snapper, maybe it feels better than if you're like Darian Thompson. It's like, well, they didn't cut Jaron Kearse. They could have done that just as easily.
Right,
but they think maybe they think the least of me. Where with a long snapper, it's like, we need you. We know we need you. Like
there's not other.
Or the flip side to that, you could just be happy that they're going to bring me back, so I'm going to have a job.
Yeah,
like
for
that.
Sure.
That part of it probably is like, okay, I'm good. Now you're probably sitting on pins and needles a little bit until they actually do it, because you're like, you just never know in the NFL what will happen. But yeah, I think you're probably a little bit grateful that you're at least going to have an opportunity to come back. That all being said, let's talk about one player in particular that was cut. That was not cut from the Cowboys roster, but My question for you guys is, should the Cowboys maybe consider taking a look at him? One Cam Newton, cut from New England. We have talked probably more than any other, not more than any other position, but it's been one of the major positions we've talked about, particular to the backup quarterback. Do you think the Cowboys should go out and take a look at Cam Newton?
Yes, absolutely. Take a look for sure.
They should definitely take a look at his situation.
Should they sign him?
Got
quiet then.
Depends on the look, because to me it depends. And both of us answered this mailbag question, and I think you got completely different answers. So you're gonna
doesn't shock me.
Well, no, but you're gonna get different aspects of it. For me, I'm looking at like what the question that I'm asking is are you ready to be a backup? Because it looks like he tweeted some things about QB1 and all this stuff, which didn't really. I guess Belichick didn't like that on his Twitter or whatever, because it doesn't matter what they think. He's not a QB1 there. Is he going to be a QB1? Does he still feel like he can be? And is this a good role? Because being the backup is not just being ready. It's also being supportive of the guy in front of you. And the Cowboys have to decide, is this a good situation for him to be in? Is this good for the whole team? If Dak throws an interception, are we looking at goal line packages for him to? I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying I don't know if it's a great fit.
And we always frame this in terms of like, should the Cowboys do it? Does Cam Newton want to do that? Cam Newton is a league MVP. He's been a star in this league for a decade. His whole thing is Superman. He was the man. He's arguably the greatest college quarterback I've ever seen. Sorry, Texas, whatever. He's been the man since he was like 18 years old. Is he
probably younger than that?
Is he ready to just be like, I'll stand on the sideline and clap for Dak and help him game plan? I don't know. He might say retirement's better than that, or whatever situation might exist in the league where he could conceivably be a starter again. And it's not here unless Dak gets hurt. So I don't know if he's ready for that. From my standpoint, is he vaccinated? I'm sorry if people, it's none of my business to ask or whatever. It's the Cowboys' business to ask. It's the Cowboys' business to say, is it a good idea to be bringing you around the most valuable asset in our franchise and having you sit in meeting rooms with him all day, every day? I think that is paramount.
Do you think that's going to affect his ability to get a job anywhere in the league?
And it'll be, I mean, teams are going to, well, I should take that back, because Urban Meyer had no problem saying that it was.
Well, he's recanted that this morning. Quickly recanted that
rookie mistakes. But privately, away from microphones, everybody in the league is going to check the vaccination status of everybody that they're going to bring in. And again, like, the fun part about the way that the NFL has designed all of this is we don't even have to get into the debate, the stupid debate of whether or not it's a good idea to take the vaccine and blah, blah, blah. The rules are what they are, regardless of what you think of it. And the league has made it drastically harder for unvaccinated players. The waiting time to get into a team. We saw that with Malik Hooker, the protocol that he had to go through. He wasn't available to do stuff for a week after he signed. The frequency of testing. What like the traveling you're allowed to do. This whole snafu with New England started because he went to Atlanta to get his ankle checked out, but there's way more involved in that if you're not vaccinated in terms of how hard it is to do that. So life is just a giant pain in the ass if you're not vaccinated. And then you get into the fact of, and I know that vaccinated people can pick it up and spread it as well, but it's way harder. Like all of the numbers suggest that. Right. So on top of it being a pain in the ass.
And by the way, you also don't end up in hospitals in most instances or dead in most instances. So that's also a good thing. Yeah.
And so do you want to invite all of that into the quarterback room? The extra pain in the butt, the thought that Cam could be gone for 10 days at a moment's notice, and the fact that it's substantially easier based on everything we know for him to potentially contract it and maybe spread it to your best player. No thanks. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, if he's vaccinated, if he has gotten it since camp started, or if he decides to, absolutely. If he's ready to come in and be a backup, but that's line one for me. To quote Jason Garrett.
To be honest with you, I think it's kind of a moot point for the Cowboys, just because I will be shocked if we get 4 or 5 weeks into the season and Cam Newton isn't a isn't on a team and looking at the possibility of being a starter. And the reason why I say that is because, as we all know, in the game of football, there are going to be injuries. We know that. That is a certainty. Some team is going to lose their starting quarterback here in the first few weeks of the season. When that happens, you look around right now, and the quarterbacks that are out there on the free agent list, he's one of the few that actually have the credentials that he has. So to me, I don't see a scenario where he would subject himself to being the backup yet, because there's still going to be opportunities for him as a starter.
I love when this happens. We can solve this live.
Just like that.
Tom Pelissero is one of the reporters that has access to the waiver claims as they happen.
Yeah.
Dallas has claimed Will Grier.
Here we go.
The third round.
Nick, you mentioned that.
No.
Third round.
Yesterday you did. You came in my office and mentioned that.
I mentioned
Never heard
it.
of the guy.
I don't.
well, maybe it was you. I
I've
get
never
y'all
heard of
confused all the time. I look kind of like. Go ahead.
I don't remember him at all.
I love connecting these dots.
He was the West Virginia quarterback.
West Virginia by way of Florida.
Oh, he went to Florida first. I just know he kicked our butts at West Virginia.
His offensive coordinator was who for a year? Doug Nussmeier. So you love to see the way that these dots get connected. He was a top 100 pick for the Panthers. From what I heard, didn't have a great camp. Obviously, he got waived in favor of their backup, whose name escapes me right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not sitting here telling you he lit the world on fire or he wouldn't have been available. But
I like him as a development guy, right?
He had top 100 talent. This will be his third year in the league. He's got experience with Nussmeier, which I bet plays a factor into this. So, now Cam Newton coming here seems even less likely than it already did.
Yep.
But I don't think that was going to happen anyway.
And I look at that more as that signing to me, or that claim to me, is really more about replacing the role that maybe DiNucci had, where he may be now you don't bring back a DiNucci to your practice squad. He becomes the guy that's on your practice squad that you try to develop, and you see where it goes, and maybe in a few years you see if he's actually developed into a player.
Well, but when you claim a guy off waivers, he's on your roster. He doesn't go to practice
Well, but
squad.
I'm saying they could still move him around. Like my assumption is, I'll put it like this. I would be shocked if they roll into week 2, 3, 4 with 3 quarterbacks on the active roster. Would you guys not be?
With Will Grier being here now, I think that seems like a certainty. If I'm not mistaken, if you claim a guy, you have to keep him for 3 weeks, right?
3 weeks.
So they can't do anything with him. And I
just think he's not ready to.
No,
and
and
he's not going
to really do anything for you. That's what I'm saying. Like long term, like maybe he has to stay there for 3 weeks. I would be shocked they held him there all season, right? Doesn't that seem a little bit?
Yeah, you wouldn't expect 3 quarterbacks on the roster all year, especially if you get to a situation where you need it. But as it stands right now, I mean, they've got a lot of things working for them that they can have 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now.
I would bet they keep. I think they keep 3 for at least the first half of the season or so. Like, you're not even going to know what you have in Grier for a month or more.
Yeah.
He just got here. He's going to need, and he's not going to get a ton of practice time anyway. You have to keep him because of the waiver claim. And I assume they claimed him because they thought they wouldn't be able to get him otherwise. So I would imagine they'll be going with 3 quarterbacks for a while at least.
That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see once this all shakes out. You're right. It was like, this is not what typically happens on cut day. You kind of know that what happened is what's going to happen, other than obviously filling in your practice squad. But there's a lot of moving parts still.
Yeah, well, and anything can happen, but it kind of seems like if they're going to do that, then that's probably it. Because you sign any of these other, we have a list of 10, 12 veteran guys that were cut. CC, he was waived, which means they claimed him off waivers. But there was veteran quarterbacks, probably 10 or 12 that were released. And if you're going to bring one of those guys in and Grier, now you got 2 guys that don't know
what they're doing,
the offense and all that. So it doesn't seem likely now that they're going to do that. It seems like Cooper Rush is the backup.
And Jerry actually mentioned that on his call yesterday with the fan. He said, the way you have to think about it is Cooper Rush has been here for a while.
Right.
He knows this offense. So if you're replacing him, you're kind of setting yourself back, at least in the beginning, with regards to having somebody really ready to step in and take over. So, I think that's probably the general theme at this point, is that what you have at quarterback is probably what you're going to have for the foreseeable future.
If they were going to replace Cooper Rush as the backup, it would be with a Cam Newton type of player. And even then, you probably want to give Cam a few weeks to get up to speed on a completely new offense. And so I think this only emphasizes that Cooper Rush is the backup at least for I think probably the first half of the season realistically.
Yeah, they have to make a roster move, and it hasn't been announced yet. I mean, that claim's gone through. We're kind of in talking with our PR department right now to figure out what the corresponding move is. They got to do something, and I'm sure they have turned it into the league. We're not aware of what they've done just yet. So that's it could be one of those guys getting released. It could be, I don't. I mean, there's a lot of things, that they can do with this roster. And so I would think 3:00 today we're going to have a much better idea of what this roster will look like.
All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Tampa Bay's offense versus the Dallas defense. We'll also take some calls. Call us 888-855-2297. Again, it's 888-855-2297. We'll be right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with United Ag and Turf. Before you can park yourself in front of the game, park yourself in a John Deere and power through your chores. Our Land Run package is a 1025R, 25 horsepower tractor with a loader, rotary cutter, and a box blade for $229 a month. And the price you see is the price you'll pay, no surprises. So don't miss another kickoff.
Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com. Offer ends February 1st, 2021. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Now let's get to work.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar. And a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere. And a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
Back to the break.
Get the ultimate fan experience for the ultimate Cowboys fan. You can join Dallas Cowboys United, presented by Globe Life, at just $20. Join now, get your fan pack, exclusive benefits, and more. Visit DallasCowboys.com/United for details to join today.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Let's talk some Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Dallas Cowboys. That happens this next Thursday night. Kick off the NFL season. On paper, you look at this Tampa Bay offense, you look at this Dallas defense, and it seems like it's going to be a very, very daunting task based upon what you saw from both units last season. That all being said, and I asked Bucky this question earlier, I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about it. Based on what Dallas has done this offseason, how convinced are you that they will be better this year?
I'm not convinced. I'm just not. I mean, I don't know why we would be convinced. I mean, really, because convinced is a strong word, I'm just not. I've seen this play out too many times. I've seen the defensive coordinator that's like, oh man, this guy's good. This guy's got it. He figures it out. And it looked better than what we've seen. But like Bucky said, from what we saw in the training camp and their guys getting their hands on the ball and all that stuff, did they face a number one quarterback at all? I mean, a few days of Dak and then that's it. They didn't face one in the preseason. They didn't face any starting quarterback other than Trevor Lawrence, and that didn't look good. But they didn't have the starters in there. But the starters have not faced a number one quarterback, and now they're going to face the best quarterback in the history of the league. So no, I'm not convinced of anything.
I am convinced that they'll be better in the sense that it's almost impossible for them to be worse. I mean, how many times in all of your years watching football have you seen a pro defense surrender 2 separate 300-yard rushing performances, which they did?
So Nick and I witnessed it.
2000. I
didn't say it's never happened.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that year was pretty bad, and last year was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Was it better in 01? That's the thing. It's probably like a little better, but not like they still bad.
Yeah, but that draft, like I don't think they got a player even close to what they got.
Right.
This draft. But go ahead.
True.
It would it would be statistically hard to be worse, but that's as much as I'm willing to say. I'm excited about Micah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the, I noticed this yesterday. Doesn't mean they're good. Does not mean they're good. But they didn't cut any of their free agent signings. There was no Clinton Dix. There was no Jasper Brinkley. The guys that they brought in, they think can have a role. Brent Urban, Carlos Watkins, J-Ron
Ken O'Neal.
I know. But Poe and Worley made the team last year. So does not mean that they're good.
Right.
Good point.
Does not. But it's at least a step in the right direction that they didn't have to cut any of those guys.
They didn't cut a draft pick either, right?
Not yet. I think that could still happen.
Yeah, it could happen.
No, all 11 made the team.
Farniok. I'm still surprised Semi Fehoko made the team. I am. I didn't see him make a play or do anything.
I actually looked this up. We know that they like to protect their draft, but I was actually stunned. I was stunned when I looked it up how much the lengths that they really go to protect their draft. Will took over in 2014.
Will McClay,
sorry. If you listen to this show, you know who Will is.
Well, we just claimed Will Grier.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Sorry.
We just complicated.
He took over 8 seconds ago.
They've made 70 picks with Will running the draft process. And all but 10 have made the team as rookies. And of the 10 that they have cut in that time span, 7 of the 10 were 7th-round picks.
Okay, so my question would be...
The other 3.
Oh, the other 3.
6th-round pick Rico Gathers, who they gave a lot of money to keep him around.
That's right.
So that's almost like cheating.
That's an asterisk.
Yeah. 6th-round pick Marquez White from a few years ago. Hang on, I put this in a tweet last night.
I know the third one.
Who's the third?
It's got to be the 5th-round pick. It's got to be a Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yes, it was. Michael.
Yeah. Who they wanted to bring back on the practice squad, and he's one of the very few guys.
He made it to the practice squad. I looked this up last night. He got claimed off the practice squad later in the season, but he did make it initially.
Michael Jackson.
And then there were 5. Chaz Green, Martin Zacha, Jalen Smith, Cedric Wilson, and Connor McGovern all were placed on season-ending lists. Like, they didn't have rookie seasons, but they were obviously still on the team.
We know Chaz Green played.
If you get drafted, before the 7th round, they're gonna do their best to keep you.
That's a great stat.
But here's
a great story.
But here's what I think is missing from that. Great story. But here's what I think is missing from that is you didn't normalize it for me. What does that?
I don't know. I don't have time to look at the other teams in the league.
But my point is, if that number is what it is, but what we don't know is, are teams out there, do they keep more than that? Do they keep less? Is this right there at the average? And this is what typically happens with teams because you're trying to infuse young talent and you're trying to keep young talent around to develop them?
But we don't have to normalize it because we're not worried about them.
No, I know we're not.
But when all I'm saying is when we get to training camp and we're talking about guys, we need to put more emphasis on that number because it's this team.
Understood. I guess what I was trying to glean from that is just from my own personal knowledge, like, do the Cowboys protect their draft more than other teams? That's where I was going with that.
That I don't know. I think the whole league protects their drafts because that's how you keep salary down.
Right.
And that's why, when a guy, this is burned into my brain because he wound up here. Vince Mailey was a 4th-round pick for Cleveland a few years ago, and they cut him as a rookie, and it was like headline news. That just doesn't happen. Like, if you're picked in it's rare to see a guy picked that early get cut as a rookie. Like, 4th-round picks make the team because you don't want to admit that a guy you took that highly sucks. So I don't know the numbers for the rest of the league. But to Nick's point, I said it all throughout the offseason. I was like, if you're a 5th-round pick, that doesn't mean you're safe. History indicates that it does mean you're safe.
We're gonna write that story at some point. Like going into like next year or whatever. I mean, it's really good to know that because, but to me, the second year, I mean, like,
all bets are off.
But are they, like, this is what I want to know is was Bradley Anae, is he that much better than Rondell Carter, or is he better at all? You know, I hope they, you know, if it's close, they'll probably go with the, you know, the draft pick. But I mean, they're probably very happy to put Reggie Robinson on IR for the season because they didn't want to have to cut a 4th-round pick who wasn't going to make this team.
Yeah.
Right. He was at the bottom. He was near the bottom
chance.
of your depth chart there at that position. Yeah.
But now, you know, he comes back. He goes to training camp. He gets cut next year. You know, it's 3 years removed from the draft, and it's like, man,
it's too small of a sample size because it's only 2 years. But since McCarthy got here, they kept their whole class last year, including Ben DiNucci, and they kept this, which they might still cut Farniak, or maybe they could cut Simi. I kind of doubt it, but that's so 18 straight rookies making the team. Interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Getting back to the conversation on the Bucs and the Cowboys.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. That was a good detour. That's a detour we're taking. Outside of Michael Parsons, though, what's the most convincing thing that you can give fans hopes that the Cowboys will be better? Like, name a player or a position or something.
You're looking at me like I've got something to say. I don't.
That can give fans a reason to believe that maybe they are better than they were last year.
What player other than Michael Parsons on defense are you excited about? I think it's Randy Gregory.
I mean, I'm so excited about Randy, but I'm not ready to just assign him that status. You know, like, they're going to be going against JPP and Shaquille Barrett. Tampa fans have every reason to believe that is a fearsome duo among the best in the league. I'm excited about Tank and Randy. I'm not ready to be like, oh yeah, especially Tampa's tackles are great. Yeah. Donovan Smith and Tristan Wirfs. I mean, Tristan Wirfs was like all pro as a rookie. Like, I'm not ready to just be like, yeah, Brady's going to spend the whole night on the ground. I'm not ready to say that at all.
Well, you're forgetting Dorrance Armstrong.
Of course.
But by the way, I'm not expecting. I don't think, and that's why I've been wording these questions the way I have. It would be foolish not to recognize the fact that this defense is coming off one of the worst performances in club history. So to think that they're all of a sudden going to be among the best defenses in the league, I think is foolish. But I don't think that doesn't mean they can't be improved. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm trying to figure out is where are the areas where you can see some level of improvement. You talk about players that you're like, well, maybe that could be. Like, I look at a Trayvon Diggs and I'm like, if he's better, which we see the trajectory that he can be better. If he's better, maybe that's an area where you could see something. I do think the safeties are better than your safeties last year. That doesn't mean they're great. It means I think they're better than they were last year. So that's what I'm looking for is what are those areas where you could see areas where they could be better.
I got one on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 when they get to the nickel. I think that Keanu Neal and Micah Parsons will be better in the linebacker position. Those guys will be better. I think with having Randy Gregory on the outside, I think some of the pass rushing combinations that they have, Dorrance can help with that. I think when you put your safeties back there, I think they can get off the field better than they have before, mainly because of those linebackers on nickel.
We don't have to pile on Jalen Smith. It's a dead horse.
No point to it, yeah.
But
Prescott Pylon?
I don't. Pylon Prescott, don't like that nickname at all. Doug Nussmeier, go back to the well and try again.
I just.
That's all I can
remember.
Kind of running through the building over the last few weeks, I think. But
this defense, don't know if they're going to be better. They're going to be a lot faster and a lot more athletic. When you add Micah Parsons to the mix and Keanu Neal, a former safety playing linebacker, and you hopefully take a guy who's not fast enough to be a star at this level, take him off the field more often. That's going to make a big difference, I think. So yeah, like I think I said that was our other mailbag question. I was like, just get to the ball quickly and confidently. That's real. Like that is like the baseline expectation for this defense. And if they do it with more regularity than they did last year, they should be a lot better.
Yeah,
a lot better, meaning middle of the pack instead of just absolutely the worst.
Yeah. You can be middle of the pack if your offense is special. If your offense is special, like we think it can be, your defense can be considered middle of the pack. That could be good enough if your offense is special.
Well, I will say this, though. I think a lot of the things I saw last year that were problems with this defense were just basically mistakes, mental mistakes, guys not being where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was a lot of, I was in the right spot, I just got run over, or I just missed the tackle, or I think a lot of it was the guys just out of place. And so I think if you can get that part right, I think this defense takes a jump. Like, now if you're at the bottom of the league, that jump might get you to 22. You're still not at the top half of the league, but you're better. And that's where I think there's room to grow here, regardless of what else you think of this defense and what they've done.
I just laugh, and some listeners give me flack because, and I agree. Like sometimes I tend to like overinflate the opposition. Like I just always think that opponent is way better.
You're pessimistic.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Well, especially when you don't give me a reason to be optimistic.
Just in life, you're a pessimistic kind of person.
I am. I think of myself as a realist, but sure. But the opponent is funny. Like this isn't college football where you get to tune up against Little Sisters of the Poor.
Right.
But there are opponents on this schedule that I'd feel way better, particularly on defense. Like if the Dallas defense, if you were getting Carolina in week 1, I'd be like, all right, let's see where this goes. And maybe they'll do this better.
And you can ease into this thing. Yeah.
You just look down Tampa's depth chart and you're like, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. And Tampa's got a great defense, too.
Yeah.
But I'm a lot more...
Maybe even better than the offense.
I'm a lot more optimistic about the Dallas offense being able to get some wins, whereas I'm just like, well, we don't feel good about the secondary, and this is probably the best receiver core in the league. I know Dallas has something to say about it, but if Antonio Brown is really back to who he was, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
Tom Brady speaks for himself. The line speaks for itself. Like, if you did it player by player, I don't think you would take a Dallas player across the entire matchup, probably.
Yeah.
So this is as tough as it gets in terms of opening the season with a brand new staff and a brand new everything.
Yeah, that's going to be a wrap for us for today. It's a good way to wrap it up.
Sorry to bring the mood down.
We will be back on Friday, and we are going to talk about the Cowboys offense versus the Tampa defense. And all that. Although that defense is really good, I agree with you. I think there are some matchups where maybe the Cowboys can find some ways to move the ball and hopefully generate some points, because this might be a game where they have to generate a lot of points in order to win. We'll talk about that on Friday. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?